Welcome to Comics League Dark and happy 4th of July. I'm Jared. I'm here with JJheat. What's up, brother?
Flame on. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good. So today we are talking about the loss of Jim Shooter and Julian Mahone, otherwise known as Dr. Doom, and Superman Legacy predictions, and that really interesting review that broke embargo. So what do you want to talk about first, JJheat?
Let's go ahead and pay our respects and a moment of silence first.
All right, so we'll do Jim Shooter, but first, moment of silence for Jim Shooter. Okay, so Jim Shooter, for those that don't know who he is, for one thing, he was a comic book writer, but he broke into the comic book industry at like 14 because this is before the internet, so you could do that. And he wrote a couple of Legion books, but then he went over to Marvel because he preferred Marvel over DC. And he eventually rose to become the editor-in-chief of Marvel, under which he would oversee like Chris Claremont's X-Men, many legendary runs. And he was known for being a bit of a hard ass because he actually required comic book writers to do their jobs and get their work in on time. Kind of funny how that works out, huh?
Indeed.
So, JJheat, why don't you tell me your thoughts on Jim Shooter?
My thoughts on Jim Shooter is that he definitely contributed to the industry, and I just have the utmost respect for this man.
Yeah, when you see someone that essentially defined a lot of eras of Marvel that people like take for granted, he is one of those names up there. And honestly, if there is a comic book Mount Rushmore, he is definitely going on that, like straight up in the center. Like there's no way you can exclude him from that. But it's so what Jim Shooter books have you read, JJheat?
I've read about a good few over the years, scattered about.
Mm-hmm.
Not a full overarching run, but definitely a few comics here and there.
Yeah. It's like I'm just going through the Chris Claremont X-Men run right now, which I'm really digging. But I mean, that's an interesting example because it's like he and Chris butted heads a lot, but it's like he does that. It's like it's one of those complicated situations. But the most important thing about that is that he was again the editor. Well, he was also a writer, but the point is, in his job as the editor, let me put it this way: he wasn't necessarily liked by his contemporaries at the time because again, he was telling them, do your work. We hire you to get your stuff in on time. Do it. And I'm like, that's in a lot of ways, I've said many times, you need someone to come into these companies. You needed essentially another Jim Shooter to come into like DC and Marvel and tell them to buckle down and stay consistent to the characters. Arguably, we kind of had a Jim Shooter at DC with Dan DiDio, but it wasn't like the same, I don't think.
Okay, Dan DiDio, he was more about preserving the status quo. Say what you will about his personal disdain towards legacy characters, because Dan DiDio was more on the business side. Like, how can we maintain these legacy characters if our main vanguard, if our moneymakers have to maintain the certain timeline or within the specific age range? Like for Batman, for example, how can he have 4 or 5 adopted ward/sidekicks, not counting Damian as his biological child, when he's canonically anywhere between 40 to 45? Like, for example, Jim Shooter, as an editor-in-chief or one of the head honchos of Marvel, of their respective company, yeah, he was like, Dave makes a perfect example. He's more akin to Vince McMahon. At the end of the day, he's gonna put business first.
Yeah, except Jim Shooter was not a scumbag like Vince McMahon. Let's not forget about that.
Major difference. I want to be explicit on that. But yes, in terms of a straightforward, no nonsense, pure who actually not only saw the business side of things, but actually maintained quality control with the storylines, with the manuscripts coming out for comics, Jim Shooter was a class act. The closest you'll probably ever find is is Dan DiDio to a degree, but Dan DiDio had his own style to it. If I'm making sense.
Yeah, what I mean mainly is that because DiDio was like very determined to make sure everything stayed consistent and came out on time. That's kind of the analogy that I'm like going for with that. But
Okay.
It's one of those things where we probably will never see anyone like Jim Shooter ever again. And it's sad because we need guys like Jim and Dan to a degree to actually hold these writers accountable and make sure they know you're not above reproach. Do your work, and then you can play. Essentially, he's like the parents, honestly.
Definitely.
That's kind of that. But what else? And you guys in the chat, if there are any particular Jim Shooter adjacent books that you guys would like to highlight, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And there's like a lot there.
But Jim Shooter didn't become an editor until, I want to say, he got into the industry as an artist around 14, but he didn't officially become an editor proper until around the 80s, early 90s. I want to say it was around Secret Wars, if not shortly after, by the time he got his first editing gig.
Yeah, so what says here, he actually started writing Legion. He wrote and drew stories for Legion at 13 in 1965.
Okay.
And so what happened was, this is interesting. So what happened was he wanted to get the job at DC. So what he did is he actually wrote and drew his own stories on his own time. It wasn't like he was being paid. And he sent those into DC. And Mort Weisinger, who was the editor at the time, bought the stories off of him and then asked him to write one for Supergirl and Superman. So he did that. And then he became a regular writer on Legion. And then so he called and he called Jim and says, hey, why don't you fly up and then we will want to show you a few things. And he goes, well, I'm 14. So they're like, you're what? So he was essentially 14. And but still he actually began still selling stories to DC, and he would write those stories in the comics. So
under the table, but they wouldn't officially, he wasn't of age to receive official work from either company.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. In the mid 70s, Marvel went through a little shakeup, and Roy Thomas stepped down as like editor in chief, and then as editor, and then you had like you had a bunch of other editors like Len Wein, Marv Wolf, and Jerry Conway, and Archie Goodwin, and then Shooter took the job as an assistant editor and writer. And then it was around the time that Stan Lee became the head of Marvel that he appointed Jim Shooter as editor-in-chief, I believe. And so in his 9 years tenure as an editor-in-chief, he oversaw Chris Claremont and John Byrne's run on the Uncanny X-Men, Burns' work on Fantastic Four, Frank Miller's Daredevil, Walt Simonson's Thor, and Roger Stern's run on both Avengers and The Amazing Spider-Man. And he, in 1981, Shooter brought Marvel into the lucrative comic book specialty shop market with Dazzler #1, which was the disco superhero. And then what happened, despite his success in revitalizing Marvel, Shooter angered and alienated a number of long-term Marvel creators by insisting on strong editorial control and strict adherence to deadlines. Although he instituted an art return program and implemented a policy giving creators royalties for when their books passed certain sales benchmarks, or when characters they worked on were licensed as toys, Shooter occasionally found himself in well-publicized conflicts with creators like Steve Gerber, Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan, John Byrne, and Doug Mensch, who left to work for DC, encouraged by his new publisher, Jeanette Kahn. And so all those guys left. During Shooter's tenure, he enforced a policy forbidding the portrayal of gay characters in the Marvel universe. Oh, interesting. So that would actually, obviously, that would change soon. And then, fun fact: Shooter was essentially the founder of Valiant Comics. So that's where we get like Exo Manowar and the like.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Again, when you see like so many like other like when you see this guy's like for lack of a better term rap sheet, it's like it goes on through it goes for because it's like he was engaged in comics from 1965 all the way to when he died. Like the man was a stud. So yeah, Cameron. Wow, the man like oversaw like some of the most legendary titles of Marvel. And again, he essentially wanted the handholding. He said no editorial control. And here's the thing: I get that a lot of writers come in and they go, "I want to leave my stamp on the character. I want to really like make my mark." But it's like with Jim Shooter, it's like, yeah, that's fine, but you have to adhere to like to what I say because I'm the editor. I have to make sure everything aligns. Like, why? Like, what do you think, JJheat? Because I get the idea.
That's a very good anecdote because at least during Jim Shooter's tenure, he was able to balance. He was able to balance not only consistency but also quality control with the creative's ambitions. Like he was just like, okay, this is not everybody knows this, but they should. Whether we get solicitations or breaking news or anything like that, I'll be quick about this. I promise. These what we see in the finished product stems from manuscripts that are approved by editorial. During Jim Shooter's tenure, manuscripts would be revised again and again, and then you didn't see. And the only time you would ever see a delay during Jim Shooter's tenure is if the manuscript either wasn't submitted or nobody could come to a consensus, and the book had to be pushed back.
But real quick, Cameron. No. He was against portraying that. And
Jim Shooter was notoriously against it.
And what's interesting is that according to John Romita Sr., he said that Shooter had been great for the first 2 or 3 years. He got the creative people treated with more respect, got us sent to conventions first class with our ways paid, and we thought the world of him. And then Secret Wars was a big hit, and that he decided he knew everything and started changing everyone's stuff. So it was probably because, as you guys remember, Secret Wars was, for one thing, the debut of Black Suit Spider-Man stuff, but it began as a toy commercial to like sell the Marvel Legends action figures.
Yes.
And essentially what would have happened is he wrote it and it became like a big hit. And all of a sudden he, according to at least John Romita Sr., he essentially thought that like, because his event was like a big hit, that he knew everything.
Did his ego get in the way over the years? To an extent, but he had good intentions and good business sense to keep the company afloat.
And here's the other thing. He's the boss. He's the editor-in-chief. I'm not saying something went wrong, Tavi. I'm just outlining what people have said about him because he was known for being a hard ass. But here's the thing, though. Was he wrong? No, I don't think he was wrong. He was like, look, because here's the thing. I tell this all the time to people. Comic books are a business. Yes, they are an art form. 100%. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I said that, Xavier. The problem is when you start treating it too much as like as a art form and not as a business, you then get creators that don't want to keep to the legacies of the characters and then start to change everything and then screw up the business. I definitely understand where Shooter was coming from, where he goes, no, listen, this is what sells. We got to do more sales. It's like I was watching the Chris Claremont documentary. One of the things that they talk about is, so there was like one X-Men title, and then because it was selling well, Shooter told them they had to get more X-Men titles, which that makes sense because it's like if it sells well, they're going to invest in it. I don't know what the problem is, but I get it. I get to a certain degree that like the creators had a certain amount, had a story they wanted to tell. Then all of a sudden the editor-in-chief comes in and tells them they have to like change their story, which I get that can be frustrating, but you're writing corporate comics. I'm sorry, that's the way it works. Am I right, JJheat?
Yes, especially when all this came into a head during the market collapse of 1991.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
This did not tie the Jim Shooter himself. Multiple factors led into that.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, why don't you like tell us about the market collapse?
Okay, the market collapse of 1991 basically said because through collections, issue number ones, because everyone thought the more you kept, basically the collectionist market, where the longer you keep a particular comic or run preserved, the more money you'll make out of it, especially in a scenario where the creator passed away, where the original writer passed away. Now, the collector's market, that's a long-term game, and you have to be able to keep the comics well preserved as possible, or mint condition as possible. That's not a successful business model, especially as a side hustle for comic book businesses. Then with the rise of video games and in like Mortal Kombat and all this other stuff, it was a shifting art form between generations. Comic became the niche. It led to a business-wide collapse, with Marvel art naturally taking the bigger hit than DC did, since DC was kind of still going through some growing pains post Crisis on Infinite Earths, but they still had a little bit of a nest egg and goodwill to keep themselves afloat, at least up until 0 Hour in 1993. I could be wrong on the year.
Mm-hmm.
But this ultimately culminated to Marvel filing for bankruptcy and completely scattering their assets to the wind to whoever will buy them out, to whoever will buy them.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Dave says, imagine if Jim Shooter came in modern Marvel and cleaned house. He would have demolished that overgrown kids clubhouse and turned back into a company. Oh, it would have been a bloodbath.
It would have been ugly.
If he was reappointed as head of Marvel and he came in and saw what they did there, he would be like, "You're all fired. We're hard rebooting."
Oh no, he would have been a certain individual on The Apprentice. He would have gone full scorched.
Oh yeah, exactly. He would have been, "You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're double fired." Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, comics. Yeah, exactly. So that's there were a lot of factors there.
DC managed, but that's because they had Warner Brothers, and there was another company Warner Brothers was garnered into in the late '80s, but I forget the name.
Was that when AT&T happened, or was that
no? AT&T didn't happen until like 2015.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, there was a separate company that was integrated to Warner Brothers in the late '80s, but I forget the name. But yeah, Warner Brothers at least had DC Warner Brothers to carry them for the market collapse of the 1990s, for the market collapse of the late '80s, early '90s. But even then, they also had the movies, the early Batman films of the 2000s. DC was in a better position financially and business-wise than Marvel was. Marvel got a little bit of momentum back with the MCU, but now with diminishing returns, it's basically screw you money, and this new generation of creators just completely squandered it, putting ego over good storytelling. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was, and it's like so when you get to this, I do really feel that it's like what this kind of showed at the time with like my Marvel is that people started to is that some creators, particularly those creating today, have a big ego thing, and they're like, I get to write the characters the way I want them to be, and I go, to a degree, yes, but you also have to adhere to the way these characters have been written in the past. And that's what an editor-in-chief's job is to keep everything consistent and make sure the books are coming out. I'm sorry if Daddy has to hold your hand and make sure that like that you release your damn books when they're supposed to be out.
Dance a lot. Excuse me.
Oh yeah. And that it actually has to be written by you. No, not Dan Slott in the case of Iron Man 2020. But yeah, so that's really but in terms of like his like legacy on comics, I really feel like again that you don't see many people like Jim Shooter that have the balls to say, okay, we're gonna actually like hold your feet to the fire. Like, I'm sorry, and sometimes you do need that. Sometimes you do need that. Well, it no, we're not saying it wasn't it was all bad times, Tavi. All we're saying is that it wasn't necessarily like all. But in terms of financially, no, it probably wasn't. In terms of content, it wasn't entirely bad. Right? His legacy will be long lived. Yeah, exactly. When you have someone that has had such an indelible mark on an industry, whether or not that be comics, movies, TV, whatever. Plus, again, with like Valiant, and even like and Dave talked about how he had a lot of good Valiant stuff during his tenure. It's like when you see the indelible mark that this man has left on the comic book industry, it's in many ways what I said when Comic Storian passed away. It's like when you get to a certain level of like there's enough of you out there, you essentially become immortal because people will always be able to like read your work. I mean, hey, I've been reading Chris Claremont's X-Men. I'm sure you can find his Legion stuff. That's the good thing about this industry and media in general, in that in a way you do gain a certain amount of immortality because people will keep watching your stuff. So now let's transition over to our last RIP. So Julian McMahon died today. And for those of you that don't necessarily recognize the name, that's Doctor Doom in the original Fantastic Four movies. And
say what you will about the 2000s Fantastic Four movie. Say what you will about them. But his Doctor Doom was a solid performance. You can't take that from the man.
Yeah. I mean, let me put it this way, and Robert summarized the best in our group chat. If he had a better script, it would have been absolutely perfect. But the part that they kind of excluded in those movies was the whole Latveria part. But I get they wanted to like simplify it a little bit. So that's why, again, I don't really hold it against them.
At least the first one, because for all intents and purposes, it was an origin movie. And the Latveria doesn't really play a role when F4 first get their powers, other than Reed and Victor's beef, which is just a battle of egos or anything else. Now, Reed being a workaholic, Sue trying to make Reed jealous and try to rebound with Vic out of spite to make Reed jealous. All those are characteristical traits, but those happen after the fact, after Marvel's first family is already established. You don't really cram all those elements in a origin film.
Yeah, there's a lot that you would have to do in order to do Doom. Like, probably, he was a very good Doom.
He was good with what he was given. The script was just no, I'm not going to say that because then I have to compare it to Fan Four Stick. The script was mid
compared to Fan Four Stick. The Fantastic Four 2004 movie is Zack Snyder's Justice League level of quality.
I would say even Rise of the Silver Surfer is better than that travesty. You know what? Hot take, but I'll say it. Fan Four Stick was made specifically so Fox could keep the movie rights.
Well, actually, JJheat, that's actually a really cold take. So that's not really, about Cameron says, okay, not to be that guy, but does Latveria ever play? It actually does. It actually does. Like, even I was reading the Christopher Cantwell Fantastic Four book, Fantastic Four Doom book, and it plays a significant part in that. Even in when he's infamous Iron Man, it plays a large role in that. Apparently, he was in Runaways too. He was.
He might have played a supporting role.
Let me see this. Who was he in Runaways? I gotta see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, because an actor who played in the original Spider-Man 2002 film, the actor who played in one of the board meetings, he recently passed away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the way that things kind of go. Is like as you go, like as time advances, that kind of happens. The more these people get old, but anyway, it's like he died of cancer, according to this. It doesn't say who did he play. Okay, so I'll go to IMDb. But it's like, yeah, he also played a great villain on a TV show, Charm, which was interesting. Okay, he was also in Charm. Apparently he was, yeah. Okay, so I read that. So let me do this. Runaways. I wish Robert were here because he knows a lot about Runaways. So, oh yeah, I remember Runaways. That was that really, really cringe Marvel show. Remember that?
Yeah, but at least it wasn't a CW drama. So, yes, the Arrowverse did garner an audience. I will never take it away from that. But
he played someone named Jonah.
Yeah. Yeah, who I think he was just in that one episode. But Runaways, I'm not gonna say Runaways was bad. It was, yeah, thank you, Cameron. Thank you. Except I would argue Runaways is better than Titans, believe it or not.
That is such a great way to describe it, Cameron. Oh my god. Diet Coke Titans. Oh my, I'm gonna use that. That is so good, Cameron. Oh man, I've never seen that. Oh.
At least Runaway was cringe and edgy at times, but at least it wasn't try hard. Like, at least it wasn't just a try hard soap opera.
Yeah, but the minute I'm watching this show and the mom is dropping off their daughter and then talking about the periods, I go, what am I watching right now?
But believe it or not, Runaways was almost on the CW. But the deal fell through.
I can tell. But thanks, man. I try my best. Yeah, you're approaching Brit level of great sayings. But honestly, it's like, but again, going back to Julian, it's like, yeah, besides the Lotvarian part, because what he managed to really get with Doom is the menacing, conniving, like plotting Doom, because that's what you really need, because that's what the Fantastic one did not have to any degree. Like, Julian's Fantastic Four was essentially like, he was like the closest we've ever gotten to comics Doom, in that he embodied the character. He was intimidating as Doom.
Oh, perfect adaptation.
The way he like looks into the camera, it's almost like he's saying, I'm gonna kill you now. And I go, that's what you need for Doom. And I go, yeah, go ahead.
If Julian McMahon wasn't already diagnosed with his cancer prior to his passing, I feel like they would have gotten him to come back for the whole shakeup with the multiverse saga instead of RBJ.
Yeah, I would say,
because if you're actually going to commit to Doctor Doom, rather than just going through effectively just making a Tony Stark variant, that you would get Julian McMahon.
I think that and if you did that with the way the Marvel has been going full on comic accurate, they could have just made him. They don't have to make him that Doom. He could just be a variant that is like Haslott variant and all that stuff. So
yeah, but even I have to admit, from a business standpoint, going the RBJ route, at least business wise, was a safe and calculated choice.
Yeah, you know what? You know that Marvel was like, how do we get people to watch the movies again? Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers. And Robert's here, so let me go ahead and play his intro.
There we go.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up, dude? So
what I miss?
You missed Jim Shooter, but it's all good. It's all good. Your thoughts on Jim Shooter?
He was a very talented man. Met him twice. Really gotten a good guy, but he was the kick in the pants Marvel needed. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Before he came around, Marvel was at a point where it was more run by the
creators.
Yeah.
Robert, can you hear us? Oh, he's having technical difficulties.
Yeah, it's all good. But hey, he's backing me up. So there you go. But it's like when you need someone that's like Doom, going back to Julian while we wait. When you have someone that's like Doom level, you really need... Okay, here we go. He's here. Okay. Let's try it
Sorry,
again.
figured you didn't want to hear me talk on the phone.
Okay. So anyway, so what you want to say?
Basically, Marvel had been in a slump. They basically, a lot of the creators. You know how many books, how far delayed they were on books? They were delayed by almost half the line was delayed, but most of the creators involved either didn't know or didn't care. And here's the thing: even if you didn't put out a book, you were still charged for the printer. Even if they didn't put out a book, you were still charged for the time scheduled. And I guess the creators didn't know. And then Shooter was the one who got him in line.
Yeah, and according to like some like creators like John Romita Sr., it's like Shooter was good until Secret Wars came out and was popular, so then he started really running everything.
To a point, but I will give him props. You know why he did Secret Wars?
Why?
Because he knew if he gave it to anyone else, egos would get involved.
True. And I say this all the time. And Robert, what do I always say about comics and DC and Marvel?
Which?
I'll give you a hint. It involves cash.
Oh, yep, money. It's a business. Yeah.
It's a business. He treated it like a business. And now let me be clear. I understand somewhat what the creators are coming from, because it's mainly like, hey, you hired us to like contribute to these characters and we want to contribute these stories. And I go, yeah, that is 100% great.
And he still let them.
Yeah, he still let them. It's just the problem is it's like I think they got a little too complacent. He was like, no, get to work.
Yep. Now, Exalted Speed put it best. He was brought in to fix a problem. He fixed it, and they didn't know what to do afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
But for Secret Wars, he did it because if he had given it to someone else, like say he gave it to Bill Mantlo, who was writing Hulk, then there was a good chance he would risk Hulk being more the dominant force.
Yeah, it's like you needed someone that technically wasn't writing one of the main books, because then it's like, oh, guess what? It's not like he's gonna prioritize his character.
And it had to be a situation where ego couldn't get in the way.
And there was a case where, since he was the main editor, he knew what the other books were doing, and since this was in continuity, he could actually keep up to date, get things planned out, get things going, all that stuff. Anyone else would have been like, what's going on in those books? Who cares?
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite Jim Shooter associated book?
Secret Wars, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The Magnum.
But I would also say a lot of his Valiant work.
Yeah, I've heard from Dave in the chat that like his Valiant work is really good.
Solar, Man of the Atom. He also did the plot for Magnus Robot Fighter versus Predator.
Oh, cool.
But he didn't write it. Yeah.
Briefly before we move on, Robert, before you came onto the show, I recently did how although ultimately wasn't Jim Shooter's fault, but that he did at least attempt to keep Marvel afloat during the comics collapse of 1991. Anything you want to add to that?
It was very true, and let's remember this: he almost bought DC.
Oh God,
he did.
Okay, not literally bought. Okay, not literally buy it, but they would have had DC would have shuttered. And Marvel would have had the licensing right to do with the characters.
So DC was in a slightly better position. Like I said, I'll stress this again. DC was in a slightly better position leading up to the comic collapse of 91, but it wasn't by much.
Yeah, but by the time he did, but it fell apart by the time, as it went on, yeah. But initially, they were in talks, and that's something that Shooter was always proud of. He nearly got a Marvel Superman, which is a lot of what Byrne brought over to DC.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that. Now, Robert, what do you think of Julian McMahon as Dr. Doom?
Oh, wasted potential.
Yeah, exactly. I say this, it's like short of the relatively ignoring Latveria, what he and it wasn't his fault, so I don't blame him for that.
Solid casting.
In terms of like what he brought to the role, he had that intimidating presence that, because you want Doom to a certain degree when he looks at you to look at you like, I'm gonna kill you.
Well, not just that, but also you are beneath me. You are not. Yeah. You do not deserve to be basking in my glory.
Oh yeah, and he 100% got that.
Really, I would say he was better in the second movie. That one was. Yeah. He was more Doom-like.
Yes,
I love
because
where where like he goes. Okay, so let's be clear. I hate you, all of you.
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yep. And here's the other thing. I think the biggest problem was they put too much emphasis on Ultimate Doom.
And what's the thing for Ultimate Doom again?
Well, just the fact that he was tied into the origins, and Latveria came secondary, all that.
Okay.
yeah,
So that was actually based in the comics. Okay, I'll take away my criticism on that because at least it was based on something.
Yeah,
yeah, because
Latveria didn't come apart until later on.
much later. At least,
sense.
yeah,
That
because
makes
Well, at least they didn't give him the goat feet.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll give you that. But by Tevia, speaking of Jim Shooter, any opinion on Secret Wars 2? I've never read it.
Oh,
it's not good.
I've heard
it's
I've heard it
not
sucks.
He
It is
definitely
not
he
good.
went existential with it.
Really?
Completely
Basically,
over the top.
it was the start there that he would eventually follow up on during his new universe stuff.
Okay.
Which new universe, he got screwed.
Mm-hmm.
That was supposed to celebrate Marvel's 50th, I believe.
Really?
Yes.
But towards the end, he got like a lot of big name creators told they were yanked away. He was supposed to make it this big thing, and it ended up just being I'll just say a wet turd.
Yeah. That makes
A
sense.
real Amber Heard. Thank you.
Well done, sir. Well done.
I
sir.
walked right into that one.
Yeah, you definitely did. You definitely did. But yeah, so it's
But
like
with McMillan.
but
Sorry.
let me put it to you this way. Any criticism that I have of McMahon, he is leagues ahead of whoever of whatever the hell Fantastic Doom was.
And again, both of them had the suffering of following up, utilizing Ultimate Doom, Fantastic more so, and it just feels like, sorry guys, Ultimate Doom doesn't work.
Yeah, he doesn't. That's just simple. It's like
I don't get why people thought it was better. Was it simpler because he's tied into the origin? Actually, no.
I think it was also like they didn't want to have to deal with Latveria. I think that's what it is, because then we have to set this up. I'm like, no, you really don't. I mean, even as much as I criticize him for ignoring it, even in that movie, in the first Fantastic Four movie, they reference, why don't you go back to that country you're from? I'm like, yeah, there you go. That's Latveria.
Here's the thing. You know what you do? Don't have Doom be the first villain.
That also. Let me put it this way, you could have Victor Von Doom show up as a villain to set him up, but don't have him be the first villain. Like Mole Man. Well, it's like also, it's like, even in the recent one.
Even secret. Yeah.
Even in the one that's coming out, I get what you're going for, but why is the first Fantastic Four villain of the MCU Galactus?
Well, if we go by it, this is technically that universe's Doom. Not Doom, Galactus. That universe is Galactus.
No, but
and Galactus
no.
is not a universal constant.
No. My point is, it's like, where could you go from there?
Well, that's true.
I mean, they are point of order. They are doing Secret Wars and Doomsday. So I'm like, that, particularly if they're doing Beyond or Power Doom, that kind of
you build up to it. You build up to it.
That does escalate it, and he left again. Oh, okay. He was your transition. All right, there you go.
Yeah. You build up to it.
Yeah. That's good, Dave.
That's Disney's own The Simpsons.
Cowabunga, dude.
Or it's like, remember in The Incredibles, the Underminer?
Behold, the
Underminer!
I have always been beneath you, but nothing is beneath me. But I'll just say but let's be honest, we already know Doom was brought in as a last-second replacement.
Oh yeah, for Doomsday. Yeah. You know what's kind of funny? Literally everyone predicted they were gonna bring Doom in as soon as they got rid of Kang. Literally everyone.
And even then, you didn't even have to deviate from Kang Dynasty. All you had to do was recast the actor.
Yeah. But I'll just say this though, was that but then you also have fun. Oh yeah. But now that Doom killed off Kang in Secret Wars.
Yeah, so all you gotta do is do that. It's like, Here's the thing, JJheat. I disagree on like recasting it. Or would have fixed it? Would have fixed the actor problem. The problem also with Kang is that he got beaten by ants.
Yep.
He is no threat then. Kang was the original plot of Ant-Man Quantumania, he was supposed to win and escape. That was the Kang.
Why did they change it? And it wasn't because of the actor at that point. Why did they change it?
Because I feel like they were planning to change it anyway, but they used the controversy as a cop-out to justify.
No. I think it was we're talking about Quantumania. The Quantumania, I think, was changed because they found the ending to be too much of a downer.
True, and technically, let's be honest, you already had a downer with the second movie,
Ant-Man and the Wasp, because it directly tied into Infinity War.
But I'm like, wait a minute. But if then don't introduce Kang in this movie. If this is supposed to be the Kang, then everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's the Kang that's like killed Avengers. He's killed Thor. What? He gets beaten by ants. Apparently communist ants. Apparently also in that movie. There was a lot wrong with that movie. But the point is, anyone with a brain cell could have predicted that they were going to escalate to Doom, because that's to our point. That's the easiest like transition in terms of villains.
Exactly.
Because it's like, even if you have that big arena full of Kang, all you got to do, Doom shows up and kills all of them. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Exactly.
Because that was the problem. The minute they showed all those people with Kangs, they can't say another actor showed up. It's a shame that Kang was wasted. But here's the thing. I don't think Kang should have been the main antagonist.
The saga's big bad. No.
When everyone was calling for Doom.
Yeah, he shouldn't.
Because here's the thing. If there was one villain that could follow up Thanos, it's Dr. Doom. Because he's not just a Fantastic Four villain, not really.
To be
fair, an overarching villain.
Mm-hmm. First of all, two things. One, remember, technically they didn't get the 4 rights before when they started the whole phase.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the acquisition was still in development at the time.
And second of all, Kang is still a credible threat. Kang Dynasty, the actual Avengers story where he took over the world.
Yeah, but then that's true, but it's like... But then you have the ants. I'm sorry. It's like I said.
No. I get that. I'm just saying. I'm not counting Quantumania. I'm saying why they chose him as the next logical one, because really he is the next logical one, without counting Doom.
Yes, because the Fox acquisition was still being.
Oh yeah, if you didn't have Doom, Kang made the most sense.
True. No,
Avengers Forever.
That's true.
Before we move on, I have to say this. This is a cheap plug, I know, but I have to say this. I just finished and recorded my review for Ironheart. And I
didn't watch it, JJheat.
And I was fan requested. I want to make this clear.
Wait. Do your fans hate you? What are they doing to you?
Was it that bad?
It was mid. Is it accurate to the character? Depends on which one we're talking about. But
is it
as a show, it was aggressively mid.
Does she ask a teacher to oppress her?
No, she asks as a coworker to oppress her.
They kept that. They that is like
the worst. Threw the towel down. That was good.
They freaking kept that. They freaking.
Oh God, this is great.
They freaking kept the "you have to oppress me" crap.
Oh my God,
that is one of the things that set me off. That and people claiming she was autistic, which that royally set me off.
Oh my God, that was great. Oh my JJheat, thank you, brother, for bringing that up.
Oh. Okay, well, might I spoil the casting on a character who appeared at the end? Anyone might I spoil that?
Go ahead.
We all know who it is.
Borat as Mephisto.
I'm like, by the way, Cameron's on your side. God damn it, I was hoping they get rid of that.
They do mix it up, though. I will say this. They do try to mix it up a little bit, but it's basically the same dialogue. But they do try to mix it up a little bit.
Please tell me someone calls her out.
Somewhat. She gets somewhat of a comeuppance, but it's quickly undermined by the end.
Oh God. That's okay. Faint praise. That's better than what Heel Should Not Be Named did.
No wonder Marvel internally. No wonder Marvel internally thought this show was like one of the worst things they've ever seen.
Wait, Marvel said that?
It's a byproduct of the
It's a rumor.
Social engagement at the time. It's a byproduct of the early 2020s. It was just it's kind of like The Flash, really. It was in development hell for years on end.
Well, actually, it was after Black Panther 2, I think, because that's when she was introduced, right?
And the fact that you had to try and salvage it by really emphasizing how do you say his name? The director Kugler's name. They had to keep emphasizing it.
I feel like they did that for synergy purposes, but I get your point.
And by Cameron says also, if Mephisto showed up, which he did, why wasn't he in WandaVision or Multiverse of Madness where he should have been? Multiverse of Madness could have worked as well, but I'm like, in essentially an Iron Man show.
I think okay. I will play devil's advocate for Multiverse of Madness because adding Mephisto there would have felt like a retread of Dormammu from the first film.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But still, WandaVision.
Well, to be fair, WandaVision. Wait, Mephisto didn't have much to do with WandaVision. It was with any of that.
No, I'm saying he should have.
He should have. But
True,
the premise.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The overarching events of the show was Wanda having a mental breakdown after being brought back from the snap and Endgame, not being able to come to terms with Vision's death. And in her crash out, she enslaved an entire town.
And come on, let's be honest. We wouldn't have gotten it with Agatha all along if we didn't have it.
JJheat, I'm a fan. I'm requesting you review Agatha all along.
Okay, it's mostly anti-hero.
No. You have to do a video. I'm fan requesting a video, sir. Chat. Fan request a video.
Do it.
Fan request of Robert. Are you a fan of JJheat?
Yes.
Request a video. A video.
Do it, dude.
Request a video.
Hey,
Review Agatha on the video.
JJheat. But to make it up to you, we'll definitely be doing the Turtles Naruto crossover to make up for it.
Okay, all right. Basically, imagine Deadpool.
Don't review it now.
Imagine Deadpool and Lady Death.
Dude, come on, let him.
Don't do it now. Do it. I want a video.
Imagine Deadpool and Lady Death, but a toxic lesbian relationship. That's pretty much this entire show.
You still have to watch it and review it.
Oh, I've been watching. I'm not watching it again.
Yes, you
are. Oh, okay. If you watched it already, dude, let's not torture him to do it again.
No. It's very rare that I can find things that'll torture JJheat. I'm doing it.
Like I said, this did not affect me. Gotham Knights didn't affect me. You cannot break me, sir.
We'll find something.
Break me.
We'll find something. Oh, we'll find something, a-hole. Trust me, we'll find something. I will get you, sir. So let's talk about Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. May I first get my opinion on this?
On the review? Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't trust this guy who did the review. And he's this kind of guy who will pick and choose what he wants just to get reactions.
Well, also here's my point on it. It's according to like people have insiders, there are a few more negative reviews incoming. There's also positive, but there's negative as it always is. What this seemed to me is like non-comic book readers critiquing the comic booky parts of it.
Yes. Which, let's be honest, we've gotten that way too many times.
That happened in Man of Steel as well. So you know what? That's why I'm like, I want to see what other people bring. Because if they keep repeating the same talking points, then I'm like...
And this is a guy who also said, oh, Brave New World's going to restart the MCU!
All right, so what's kind of funny? So I was talking to my sister about Marvel, and I basically explained to her the Captain America versus Red Hulk fight, and even she's like, "Why is the Hulk fighting someone without the super soldier serum?"
He's done that many times.
No, but what? Let me be. How is someone without the super soldier serum surviving a punch from the Hulk?
Oh, well, to be fair, that suit could probably take a lot.
No, he wasn't blocked. There were a few times he wasn't blocked. He was only blocking with the shield.
Well, true. No, that shield can absorb a lot. We already know it's mixed with
Shield can, but
vibranium.
Robert, the force of being hit, I get like in the blunt force impact, that's still gonna affect you. It's not like being shot with a rifle and it like deflects it.
True.
Because trust me, if I could drive, if someone could drive, if I could essentially drive a car into someone with that, I would test that. That'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, you want me to buy that? I'm like, no. But it's like, yeah, I want to see what the other reviewers say about that, because there is a mix of reviews in there, so we'll get a little bit more of like a thermometer, if you will.
And then we got to judge anyone who tries to review bomb it too.
Oh yeah, 100. Oh, there were gun fans review bombing Jurassic Park.
Oh, those people, I'm saying, guys, come on, knock it off.
Yeah, it's not even in the same like genre as Superman. What are you doing?
What about you, G? What do you think about this review?
Mm-hmm.
That review.
I'm skeptical. I'm gonna be honest. I am a little skeptical because, again, this person has not been a consistent reviewer, quote unquote, and a lot of his nitpicks, at least from what I've seen, a lot of his nitpicks mostly stem from the comic booky aspects of hero material in general.
Yeah, I was talking to Sel Abdul about it, and one thing he says is that this person has a reputation for not liking comic book stuff.
Yeah, and I bet you, what I'm feeling that Brave New World review was just done because he was either paid to or he's just shilling the MCU.
That's the other thing, Robert, because this is something that I identified early on the DCEU is like one of the like this way. This is I know you'll agree with me on this, Robert.
Yep. Oh, I know where you're going with this already.
Illegitimate criticism of the DCEU. It's not like a Marvel movie.
That was the point.
It's a DC movie, a-hole.
And then they give us one that some people say is close to the MCU, and they're still not happy.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, guys, what do you want? What will make you happy?
Nothing. Nothing.
That's the point. Plus, here's the thing, and Sil brought up a good point. What you have to look at also is because Jurassic World was also being ravaged by the reviewers, but still making a lot of money. So
Dominion did the exact same thing.
Yes. So honestly, again, this is why I'm like, ignore the noise. I'm hoping WB ignores the noise, which they probably will. Ignore the noise. Just focus on releasing the movie, because if the movie's good enough, it won't matter what the media says. It won't matter.
I don't think they're going to do. I don't think Gunn is going to do anything in a panic. I do not think he will.
Cameron asked a good question, by the way. What type of person watched a comic book movie and criticizes the comic book part of it?
Thank you.
I'm like, what? Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
and Kevin, you're exactly right. So no one's scenario for DC fans. Marvel seems to get completely,
Yeah, it's a consequence of the MCU being realistic and people wanting all comic book movies to be realistic and goofy. Well, yeah, that's the problem. It's like also, and I blame Guardians of the Galaxy for this. It's kind of funny how it goes like full circle. That made people think, regarding the DCEU, that like all comic book movies have to be like jokes every 30 seconds.
And that's the funny thing is, I don't blame Guardians of the Galaxy directly. I blame the fallout of Guardians. How people felt.
Let me put it this way: it's not Guardians itself fault. Let me rephrase. I blame Marvel Studios for learning the wrong lessons from Guardians. They were like, every movie has to be like Guardians. I'm like, no, they all have different genres.
It's like what happened when Batman, the original Birds of Batman came out. I thought, oh, we got to make all these dark and gritty comics.
Well, here's the thing, Robert. It's like one of the most popular MCU movies, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. Yes, they have some jokes in them, but they're not Guardians of the Galaxy joke fest. What does that tell you?
Yep.
I'm like, guys, one tone doesn't work. That's why the early MCU was so good, because you had all these different tones that were accounted for. You had serious, you had comedies, but you also had movies in the middle. But when you go all the way in one direction, that's where like these Scorsese's come in and say all these movies are alike.
Because when you're looking in the simplest of terms, yes.
And again, That's not to say you can't have a serious comic book movie and have comic booky elements. What we're saying is that treating everything like a comedy, that's the problem.
Yep.
Which,
when Guardians did it, it made the characters feel real, because it did.
yeah, exactly. And it's like it worked for that one movie. That is totally. Look what happened when they turned
Second
Thor
one, it was
into-
half and half. Second one was half and half.
Robert, look what happened when they made Thor a comedy.
Ragnarok worked, but not because they kept it. It was balanced with drama. Love and Thunder, no.
Well, here's the thing. I looked into the critical reception of Ragnarok. What people thought is that it was a palate cleanser, and then maybe we'll go back to like maybe they learned their lesson and they're going into more of like a balanced look. Which honestly, the balanced look came in Infinity War. That was balanced Thor.
Yeah.
Like where he lands and goes, "Bring me Thanos."
Yep.
I was like, yes.
Yep. But then Endgame.
Endgame made him fat, and then Taika had to Taika.
And I'll be honest, you know what was the big problem was, of course, Gunn put it best. The fact that he was almost railroaded into having Thor when it's like, I don't want Thor. Why did anyone ask me?
Yeah, exactly, because he's in the Guardian. He's the guy.
Thankfully, that's one thing I will give the director of Thor, to get him out of there. It's like, he's like, he didn't have to, but he chose to, and Gunn was like, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first off, it was kind of. I get that they were kind of going for a more as Guardians of the Galaxy like comic book look. But I go,
ask the man.
Yeah, ask exactly. That's the problem. Ask the man and say, hey, do you mind if we put Thor on your thing? You can get rid of him in one movie.
To be fair, I bet you they killed Gamora without asking.
Oh, I'm sure they.
Because why do you think it took so long for him to work on the writing of the third movie?
I think honestly, yeah. I think that they killed.
And yet, I hear people keep on saying. I keep on seeing people saying, "Oh, the Russo brothers know how to write females better than Gunn does. Look at Gamora. He butchered Gamora when it's like the Russos butchered her, not him."
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
and Nebula, they just took what he set up and played it off, to its logical conclusion. Don't give them the credit for something he set up.
Yeah. But
I will say this though. I will, because if we go on Guardians, we'll be here all night. Yeah. But I will say this though. James, at least with the marketing of this movie, James Gunn has had a bad habit of letting his ego get in the way, especially when it comes to social media.
True.
So I will say that because I don't know if it's so much of him trying to make a Superman movie or so much trying to put his name on the project. Now, is this going to make $1 billion? Probably not.
TBD.
But it's not going to be a commercial flop either. I feel like at the very least, it'll make a decent profit. It's just not going to be the high numbers DC.
And they can afford a hit. It's the first movie. Iron Man was not a big juggernaut when it started.
Yeah, as long as it makes money. I like put it this way. If it makes its budget back and the marketing and stuff, I think they'll say, let's give it another movie, which it probably will. Let's give it another. Again, I said radical change to the DC studios won't happen unless this, Supergirl, and Lanterns all fart, essentially.
But again, this one won't be even if it does well, that's not going to be a fart.
The only time I could see them doing drastic change now is if it flashes. That's what I say.
It is not going to hit that low.
No. I know, but I'm saying the only way I could see them taking action this early is that.
Worst case scenario, if Superman will hit Black Adam numbers.
Here's the part that's concerning me. Is Zaslav gonna Zaslav?
No, I don't think so.
Here's why. He's trying to sell the company, and if the Superman movies don't really do well, so that's the.
Can I answer this one?
No.
Go ahead.
I'm the Super Wonder guy. Let me address this. Because trust me, dude, I've been dealing with this all week, so I have rants. But it's like now. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter if David's on board, if Gunn or the director of like a Superman Wonder Woman movie is on board. That's what matters, because he could say he wants to explore that portion of the movie. That's fine. Now, could they explore that down the line? Very well. They very well could, particularly with, and someone brought this up on my gaming stream yesterday, is that David seems to be a fan of like the Grant Morrison new 52 Superman, which I go, yep, we have that in common. And if they want to go in that direction, great. And here's the thing: just because he's with Lois now doesn't necessarily mean they will stay together. That's what people on my side, what I keep telling them. It could happen in the future, for all we know. But anyway, so Robert, what do you want to say?
I was going to say, actually, you nailed it on the head, a lot of it.
Yeah, it's like, guys, it's like, let me put it this way. Would it be a nice bonus? Yes, absolutely it would be nice. But the movies have to be successful to get to that point so we can get that. That's why I'm like, I need Superman to do well so we can get the Wonder Woman movie.
May I say one thing also about the review? It just dawned on me.
Yeah.
If Superman has legs, and I think it does, and it's a lot of people already having interest going into it, reviews aren't going to matter.
That's my point there, because I'm like, again,
we've reached the point where reviews do not drive things that much. Word of mouth does, but not.
As soon as like Rotten Tomatoes was outed for taking payments for positive reviews of movies, the movie reviewers' credibility just tanked hard. Plus the fact no one goes to these websites anymore for movie reviews. Honestly, if you look at statistically, people come to like YouTubers. So it's like
to a point.
But I'm saying,
but only those who come up as fair, not those who came up as
just hating on it to hate on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, BP, and to be clear, I want this to be good, not just because the possibility of Super Wonder is down the road, but because I want a Wonder Woman movie.
Yep, and I'll say this. I wouldn't mind just actually seeing a love triangle for once. We never actually had that.
Yeah, would you be interested in seeing the actual relationship on screen?
I would like to see it start as a friendship first.
Obviously, yes, and they build to it. Now, the other thing I'm going to add, I'll be in favor of it if they treat the breakup with Lois respectfully. If they don't like assassinate her and they go in that, because I don't want that either. Britt and I have been very clear. We don't want DC to crap on Lois to hold up Diana because that's horrible. As long as they treat that with respect and say, "Hey, we tried it; it didn't work out," and then he organically moves with Diana, that I think is good.
So basically, the reverse of what the Dikamu did. You were still
the new 52 because they just threw them together.
You're still mad about what happened in Volume 5, aren't you?
Okay. Hell yes. Yes, exactly. And I feel like here's an appropriate thing to describe Peter J. Tomasi writing Superman and Wonder Woman.
Dweeb.
There you go. I'm going to throw that down there.
All right, Dave says realistically 700 million is the ceiling, probably closer to 500.
I don't think so, Dave. I do think I want to see how the word of mouth carries this, because there is legit hype for this movie, because now, to be clear, around 700, in other words, my Batman, the Batman numbers, that's my ceiling currently. That could get blown out of the water, or it could go underneath that. But I don't think it gets 500 total. I don't think it just
by the end of its theatrical run, no, it'll definitely be higher than 500,000. Maybe opening week, those would be more opening weekend numbers.
Yeah, we'll see. But all in all, we're 7 days away from Superman, boys. Well, 6 days, but you know what I'm saying. Do you think the worst case? No. There's a lot of reasons why Black Adam had those numbers. First off, we shouldn't have had a Black Adam movie. Second off,
it should have had a revised script.
Yes.
Okay.
Robert.
Black Adam was even if you factored The Rock's contract, it was such an easy fix. Just have it as be a Shazam versus Black Adam movie, and then just have them team up against the villain.
Or here's the thing, JJheat, because The Rock didn't want Black Adam to fight Shazam. He wanted to fight the big boys, which is why he shouldn't have played Black Adam. But here's the thing. If that movie had been just Black Adam versus Superman, significantly more people would have shown up. I'm 100% sure of that.
That's true, but to be honest, like I said before, the script was clearly written.
Revise the script.
Oh, I know. But he didn't want to. He was happy with the way it was.
Yeah, dude, when a movie's been in development hell that much, revise your freaking script, bro.
Agreed.
I think it was too much they'll come and see me no matter what.
Not after doing those Disney movies, dude. You shot a lot of your cred with that.
Yeah. How'd that work out for you, brother?
I'm sorry, did he really ignore all of his Disney movies?
Yeah, and Tavia sums up perfectly. Basically, ego. It was the Rock's ego.
And I'm sorry, that also didn't hurt Shazam too, because they really wanted to get into Black Adam, and we're told no.
They even hinted in the post-credit scene of Shazam 1.
Mm-hmm.
She points at the throne.
Exactly. Everything was meant to build up for that. And now I will say this. I still feel Shazam 2 for the they made the best they could.
For what it is, it's an enjoyable movie.
They made the lemonade out of those lemons.
I enjoyed it. It should have been Shazam and Wonder Woman teaming up, but I'll go off of that.
I probably costed everything.
Yeah, could he do it? Yes. Will he do it? I'm not convinced yet.
It depends whether or not Zaslav's going to cut his losses and sell DC off again.
Yeah, because Robert, again, could he do it? Yes.
Could he? Yes. Will he?
I'm not convinced yet. I'm leaning more toward not necessarily. Oh,
that would be a good success. That would be a success.
That would be definitely success.
Wonder Woman numbers would be a success, Britt. And roll the clip.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
JJheat. Particularly since we're also talking about Super Wonder, so we might as well.
He's back.
Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it played. But but yeah, so that's kind of where I am on that. I do think because Wonder Woman 1 made like over 800, right?
835, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, if it makes that, they'll be like, full steam ahead. Let's do this.
Oh, geez. You know what I just read?
What?
Apparently, Diamond got screwed over by the bankruptcy courts.
Oh, no.
Apparently, they asked to expedite their hearing over the payment issues because they need the funds because they're owed a lot by Diamond. And the court said, nope, we're not expediting it. So now they're doing a Humble bundle trying to raise money faster because they own Humble, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, they don't own Humble, but they do a lot of stuff for Humble.
This whole Diamond story just keeps getting sadder and sadder.
Oh, especially the fact that, as I told you guys before, they're not going to do comics anymore. Because you know why? The people who own them are the NECA company. The company that owns NECA. They just bought them for their warehouses and their distribution. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, though, Diamond brought this on themselves. They were taking too much of a loss on the small companies and it's just like, okay, doing it for a handful of companies is one thing. Doing it for anyone who asks you to do it, you're asking it on yourself.
Well, here's the other thing. And this was the first, death of Diamond when DC left.
Yep.
Here's the thing.
But it was needed. It was needed.
Yeah, no, it was remember, DC got heat back in the day for that. So what happened, everyone, to recount this, is that so the pandemic happens and Diamond closed down the comic book industry pretty much.
Yep.
Completely. So what happened is DC says, okay, because at the time Diamond was the monopoly, the
mainline distributor. Yes,
the sole way. It was a monopoly, but they weren't allowed. But they were allowed to keep it because the court saw it as no different than a magazine distribution.
So our good old friend Jim Lee took
ties
and went to Lunar, right?
Lunar. Who dealt with that in stock.
Yeah, and then again, DC took some heat from this, but then all of a sudden Marvel leaves Diamond as well. As soon as you lose DC and Marvel, that's it, brother. That
you may be able to get by with Image for a little bit, but that'll only buy you time.
As soon as Marvel left Image, this
and
was
as
Diamond.
Soon as Dark Horse lost Star Wars too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Here's an accurate portrayal of Diamond as soon as the big two left.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much an accurate thing of Image.
Okay, as far as what IPs that Dynamite own, I know they definitely own Vampirella.
They still own Vampirella. Sonya.
They have the license to Red Sonja. They don't own Red Sonja.
Conan?
Yeah.
They don't own it. They license it. Most of it is licensed. They're just basically like IDW, but they, for the longest time, have been able to handle it pretty well up until now. Get this. IDW and Dynamite has 30 employees, and even then they can't make enough for payroll. What does that tell you?
Yeah. By the way, Dave, they're not keeping Zachary Levi.
No.
Nope.
Shazam. Okay.
And that was one of my problems with Shazam 2 as well. Because you even tell the kid actor was protesting in his acting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, even how about when there's a shot? It's a blink and you miss it moment. There's an emotional moment when like Billy Batson goes into battle and tells his adopted family, "I love you." He has like a straight face, like he's going to battle. He turns into Shazam. And there's Zachary Levi kind of smiling, like he's trying to hold back a smile.
Again,
it's a complete mismatch.
It was, and again, all that was on Zachary. It worked in the first one because the actor was closer to that age. But then you have the kid mature. It felt like when these people when these things shot completely separately, and yet everything in the lead up behind the scenes show, they all got along.
Mm-hmm.
I bet by the end of production that changed. You want to bet?
Mm-hmm.
JJheat, you want to bet?
Zachary Levi, I'm not going to say it's The Rock bad, but Zachary Levi definitely let his ego get the better of him, and he burned a lot of bridges by the time.
Oh, yeah. Basically, he did a Gina. I would say, though, Gina, you could at least understand, she got let go, so felt a bit of a desperate boy. With Zachary, nope, he did it on himself. He did it on himself.
Yeah, exactly. Does it own Terminator?
License. There's a different. Now, great. It's easy to make the mistake. It is. I do know they do own Vampirella. They own that.
They own Vampirella.
But as far as most of the others, it's licensed, as far as I know.
But man, that is like that is significantly like
like the Shadow.
When even IDW isn't as much bad as Dynamite, that tells you how bad it is.
Well, isn't like Dark Horse is also a licensed thing?
Yeah, initially.
Okay.
And eventually they relied too much on Star Wars, but they were able to climb back because at least they do own some original IPs.
No, did they consolidate into Marvel in the 2010s, or do they just work with them?
No. Okay, here's how it works. Marvel decided we're going to spin off some of these Avengers stuff to these other companies. First it was IDW, then apparently they didn't do well, so they give it back to Dark Horse, but they're only giving it to the Star Wars Adventures.
Okay.
Not the main books. By the way, so Red Sonja is its own brand company, actually.
Okay.
Separate, even the Conan, the people who own Conan do not own Red Sonja, but Red Sonja is separate.
Yeah, I knew.
Here's the other thing. Disney asking another company to do like Star Wars Adventure stuff. What does that say about the faith that Disney has in Marvel?
They can't write kid books. To be fair, though, Marvel's always had that problem.
They have.
It's always trying to get the right creators, and they rarely have creators who want to dumb down their writing. Oh, and answer you, Tevye's question, yeah, pretty much, but let's be honest, some of those companies didn't deserve to get printed.
Yeah.
They were.
Some companies did not deserve it, but we might see more of an increase in kickstarting.
Yeah, because I mean, here's the thing. Say what you want about Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver. They kind of paved the way for that.
To a point. They did to a point, but I think Boom did more, and IDW did more.
Boom did most of the groundwork. Boom and IDW.
But Boom and IDW did that much more to show big companies can do it compared to EVS and that. They did way more.
With Image, they crowdfunded the hardcover collections of like Witchblade, The Darkness, and all that. Oh, he's getting his books. Oh, actually, I can do this now. Hang on. I got books too.
You know, this is the third week we've done this.
Because he keeps getting his stuff. He keeps getting. What am I supposed to do? Just sit here and take it?
That's what she said.
All right.
Oh, sorry. You walked right into that. I'm sorry.
Robert,
what?
I got something this time.
What?
So I got this from a crowdfunding on Image. So these are the 3 volumes, the first 3 volumes of the original Witchblade, all
signed
by Silvestri.
Okay, you beat me by that one, but
yes, Victory! Oh, nice.
He got irredeemable.
All signed.
Nope. but I chose not to. You guys, do you know how much these cost alone?
$200.
Well, just about, and now it's just without the shipping. Incorruptible and Insufferable, the irredeemable trilogy. And hey, it was through this that helped me get Mark Waid on my show.
Oh, okay, there you go.
So if you ask me, that was worth not having an autograph.
Yeah, but hey, at least I got one thing that I beat you in. I should have brought this up.
I'm not much of a Witchblade fan.
No, but the point is, I got signed books. Don't take this from me, Robert. Don't take this from me.
Robert, just let him have it.
Let me have my win. I barely get this with you. But on that note, before he passes me again, I think it's a good place to leave it. I've already shown
that one off.
So JJheat, where can we find you and what have you got coming out on your channel?
As for me, you can find me at JJheat Blaze or JJheat75 on Twitter or X. As I previously mentioned earlier in the stream, I had recorded and set up my review on Ironheart. Let it be known, I will not intend to watch this show again.
I don't blame you.
And also, I do gaming playthroughs such as Walking Dead, Telltale, Mass Effect, Jedi Fallen Order. I might do a Jedi Survivor 2 once I beat Fallen Order. I hadn't decided yet.
I would.
And also, I'm planning a collab with Robert on that as well.
Yep.
And aforementioned, we've been pushing this off for a while, but New Direction Versus coming back with Heroes in Crisis.
We're gonna fix another Tom King mistake. Robert, where can we find you and what have you got coming out?
Link down below. Got plenty of Pro Teachers Noobs, including Britt and I going over Supergirl. That's been going very well.
Okay.
Really like having her on.
Isn't Britt awesome? And Britt, we love you, Britt. But anyway, so for me, so tomorrow we're gonna be discussing Transformers 1 for movie night, and then for let's see what is for Super Wonder Legacy, Britt and I are celebrating our 100th episode. We're gonna be doing a Superman Wonder Woman tier list. I've collected essentially stories for Superman and Wonder Woman where that have discussed the relationship or utterly dunked on either character, and we're gonna do a tier list on that. We'll do a Q&A, we'll play some games, we'll have some fun. And Wonder Woman, for my Amazon answers, I'm gonna be talking about the Gail Simone Wonder Woman run. But
was it that bad?
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
All right, so what you think? Okay, all right. You when you started, you started enjoying it.
I started enjoying it, but then much love to you guys too. Yes, we love you too, Britt. But it's like the way I could describe it of it starts off good, and then Gail basically does the whole Diana was with Steve with Tom not because she loves him, but because she wants to reproduce. I go, what the hell is this?
The only thing I think about that is I think that was done Tori so she can probably say screw you to that relationship when that Tori said you can get rid of it.
Also, Robert, tell me what you think of this. I said this in my Tom Tresser video. I have a theory. They wanted to put Diana with Steve, but obviously Steve's old and with Etta. So they were like, let's take the other blonde-haired guy that has the almost identical backstory as Steve Trevor.
But that's true. But remember, Jeff Johns started it first.
Yeah, my point exactly.
So I have a feeling when she did that with the intent. Does not feel like she did that with the intent to derail it.
Yeah, but it was still stupid.
It was stupid, but it served a purpose.
No, I'm saying why editorial did that. Also, had a session with that too. There was too much in there that I'm like, why are you doing that? But there was some fun stuff in there as well. So I'll talk about that as well. It's not going to be all bad stuff. But anyway, stay at work, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She blows her General Zod. Zois the Maxibat for life. We will see you guys later. By the way, happy 4th of July, everyone. Happy birthday, America!